The wine glasses clinked as my daughter Sarah slid a thick document across my dining room table. "Dad, you're signing this today," she said, her voice cold as ice. My son Michael nodded from his chair, avoiding my eyes. "Transfer of trustee," the paper read at the top. I stared at them both. These were my children, the ones I'd raised, put through college, walked down the aisle. Now they sat in my own home on Father's Day, demanding I hand over my $3.8 million estate. "If you don't sign," Sarah continued, "we'll have to file for guardianship. You've been forgetting things, Dad, acting erratic. We have documentation." My heart pounded. "Documentation of what?" Michael finally spoke up. "You're becoming a liability, Dad. We're trying to help you." I pushed the papers back toward them. "I'm not signing anything today." Sarah's eyes flashed with anger. "Then you've made your choice. We'll do this the hard way." As they gathered their things and left, I realized something chilling. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. They'd been planning this for a long time. The next morning, I sat in my kitchen trying to make sense of what happened. That's when the pieces started falling into place. Small things I'd brushed off suddenly seemed significant. 3 months ago, Sarah insisted I stop driving my grandkids to soccer practice. "Dad, your reflexes aren't what they used to be," she'd said. Then Michael started helping with my bills, saying it would be easier if everything went through his email. Just last month, they'd both discouraged me from taking that trip to visit my old army buddy in Phoenix. "Dad, traveling alone at your age? What if something happens?" I walked to my desk and pulled out my bank statements. Sure enough, several recent transactions had Michael's signature as a co-signer. When had I agreed to that? My phone rang. It was Dr. Martinez, my family doctor. "Richard, I had a strange call yesterday. Your daughter mentioned you've been having memory issues. She wanted to schedule a cognitive assessment." I felt sick. "I never asked for that, doctor." "I didn't think so. You seemed perfectly sharp at your last visit. But Richard, if your family is concerned..." I hung up, my hands shaking. They were building a case against me. One small piece at a time. I decided to do some digging. A quick Google search for elder law attorney guardianship led me down a rabbit hole that made my blood run cold. I found a law firm's website with a testimonial that sounded eerily familiar. Then I checked my home office filing cabinet. Several documents were missing from my trust folder. But I found something else, a business card for Patterson & Associates, Elder Law. I'd never heard of them. I called the number. "Oh yes, Mr. Langley," the receptionist said cheerfully. "Your daughter Sarah spoke with Mr. Patterson last week about your situation. She mentioned you've been experiencing some confusion." "My situation?" "The guardianship consultation? She said you've been having difficulty managing your affairs." I hung up immediately. My heart was racing. They'd already been to a lawyer. This wasn't a threat. It was a plan already in motion. I grabbed my keys and drove to my bank. I needed to check something. The teller, Jenny, had known me for 15 years. "Mr. Langley, I'll need your daughter's approval for any large transactions," she said apologetically. "My daughter's approval? For my own money?" Jenny looked confused. "The trustee authorization form? You signed it last month." I didn't remember signing anything like that. Back home, I tore through every drawer and file cabinet looking for that form. I found it buried in a stack of medical paperwork, dated the week after my hip surgery, when I was still on heavy pain medication. My signature was sloppy, nothing like my usual careful handwriting. I barely remembered that week. The pain pills had left me foggy and exhausted. I called my financial advisor, Tom Bradley. We'd worked together for 12 years. "Richard, I'm glad you called," Tom said. "I was worried when Sarah told me about your dementia diagnosis." "My what?" "She said you'd been diagnosed with early-stage dementia and that she'd be handling your finances from now on. I have to say, you sound perfectly normal to me." "Tom, I don't have dementia. I've never been diagnosed with anything like that." There was a long pause. "Richard, if that's true, you need to get to my office immediately. Your daughter transferred $50,000 from your investment account last week." I felt the room spinning. $50,000. Gone. "She said it was for your care facility deposit," Tom continued. "What care facility? I live in my own home." I grabbed my wallet and headed for the door. But first, I went to my bedroom and pulled out the small wooden box where I kept my wife Margaret's letters. I needed her wisdom now more than ever. Margaret's letters were written during her final months, when cancer was winning, but her mind was still sharp. I opened the one dated just 3 weeks before she died. "My dearest Richard," it began. "If you're reading this after I'm gone, I need you to know something important. Be careful with the children and money. I've seen changes in them lately that worry me. Sarah especially has been asking too many questions about our finances." My hands trembled as I read on. "I overheard her on the phone last week talking about inheritance planning and how we needed to simplify things while Dad can still make decisions. Richard, promise me you'll protect yourself. Our children love us, but money can change people in ways we never expect." Tears filled my eyes. Margaret had seen it coming. She'd tried to warn me. I found another envelope I'd never noticed before, tucked behind the others. In Margaret's handwriting, "For Marta, if I'm gone." Marta was the part-time caregiver I'd hired after my hip surgery. Margaret had liked her immediately. But what could this letter possibly say? I held it in my hands, wondering if I should open something that wasn't meant for me. Then I remembered what my children had just tried to do. I carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a short note and a key. "Marta, Richard will need a true friend. The safety deposit box is at First National, Box 247. He'll need what's inside someday." What had Margaret been planning? The next morning, Marta arrived for her usual Tuesday visit. She helped me with grocery shopping and light housekeeping. Nothing I couldn't do myself, but the company was nice. "Mr. Richard, you look troubled," she said in her gentle voice. Marta was originally from the Philippines and had been caring for elderly clients for 20 years. I decided to trust her. I told her everything. The Father's Day ultimatum, the bank forms I didn't remember signing, the missing money. Marta's face grew serious. "Mr. Richard, I must tell you something. Last month, your daughter Sarah called me. She offered me $500 to write a report saying you were forgetting things, getting confused, not taking care of yourself." My stomach dropped. "What did you tell her?" I told her no, of course. "You are one of the sharpest people I know." But Mr. Richard, she was very angry. She said I didn't understand how families work. Marta reached into her purse and pulled out a small notebook. After that call, I started writing down everything. Every conversation we have, everything you remember, how you handle your daily tasks. "I don't trust your daughter." She flipped through pages of detailed notes, dates, times, conversations, evidence that I was completely mentally competent. "There's more," Marta said quietly. "I have recordings." "Recordings?" "My phone was on speaker when your daughter called. I recorded everything. She said some very bad things about putting you away." For the first time in days, I felt hope. Marta had a friend, Frank Rhodes, a tough elder law attorney who specialized in cases exactly like mine. She'd worked for 2 of his previous clients. Frank's office was downtown in an old brick building. He was probably 60, with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He listened to my story without interrupting, occasionally making notes. "Mr. Langley, what you're describing is textbook elder financial abuse," he said finally. "The good news is it's reversible if we act fast. The bad news is your children have already gotten a significant head start." He explained how trust manipulation worked. They likely had you sign documents when you were vulnerable, post-surgery, on medication, stressed. Courts recognize that as coercion. "Can we prove it?" "Marta's notes help, but we need more. Bank records, medical records from your surgery, testimony from people who can verify your mental competence." Frank leaned forward. "Richard, I need you to understand something. They're not going to back down easily. Once people start this process, they usually see it through. Are you prepared for a fight?" I thought about Margaret's letter, about my children's cold faces across my dining room table. "I'm prepared." "Good. Because I just checked the court records. They filed a petition for emergency guardianship yesterday. We have 3 days. My blood ran cold. 3 days to prove I wasn't mentally incompetent. 3 days to save my life's work. Frank sent me home with homework. "Document everything," he said. "Write down your daily routine, your medical history, every financial transaction you remember. We need to show the court you're in complete control of your faculties." But first, I had to check on something. I drove the 4 hours to my small cabin in Oregon. the property Margaret and I had bought as a retirement getaway. We'd planned to spend our golden years there together. The for sale sign in the front yard hit me like a punch to the gut. I called the number on the sign. A cheerful realtor answered, "Oh, you must be a neighbor." "Yes, it's a lovely property." The seller's daughter said her father moved to assisted living and wanted to liquidate quickly. "We just listed it yesterday." What was the asking price? $280,000. It should sell fast at that price. My stomach churned. The property's worth at least $400,000. They were practically giving it away. Who authorized the sale? Sarah Langley, the trustee. She said her father has dementia and she's handling all his affairs now. I sat in my car outside the cabin, shaking with rage. They were already selling my property and telling people I had dementia, while I was still living independently in my own home. I took photos of everything. The sale sign, the listing details, even a video of myself standing in front of the cabin, clearly stating the date and that I had never authorized any sale. The drive home felt like the longest 4 hours of my life. That night, I set up my laptop and recorded a detailed video. If something happened to me, I wanted people to know the truth. My name is Richard Langley. Today is June 18th, 2024. I am 74 years old, and I am of sound mind. If you're watching this, it means my children have succeeded in taking control of my life and my assets through false claims of mental incompetence. I spoke for 20 minutes, detailing everything that had happened. I recited my social security number, my bank account numbers, the names and birth dates of all my grandchildren. I solved math problems and discussed current events. Anyone watching would see I was completely lucid. I saved multiple copies and emailed one to Frank. My phone buzzed with a text from Marta. "Your daughter opened your mail today. I saw her take several official-looking envelopes. Be careful." My heart raced. What had she taken? I called Frank immediately. They might have intercepted court documents. "That's illegal," he said, "but it also means they're getting desperate." "Richard, is there somewhere safe you can stay tonight? With family members this aggressive, I worry about your safety." I'd never considered that my own children might physically harm me. But looking back at Sarah's cold eyes across my dining table, I wasn't sure of anything anymore. "I'll be okay. Marta is staying overnight." "Good. And Richard?" "Tomorrow we fight back." The papers arrived by courier the next morning. Petition for emergency guardianship stamped with an official court seal. The hearing was set for Friday, just 2 days away. I read through the allegations with growing horror. They claimed I had severe cognitive decline, that I was unable to manage basic daily activities, and that I posed a danger to myself and others. According to the petition, I had left the stove on multiple times, gotten lost driving to familiar places, and given large sums of money to suspicious individuals. None of it was true. They'd even included a statement from Dr. Patterson, a neurologist I'd never heard of, claiming I showed clear signs of dementia progression. Frank arrived within an hour of my call. "They've stacked the deck," he said grimly. "False medical reports, fabricated incidents, paid witnesses. This is professional-grade elder abuse. Can we fight it?" "We can try. But Richard, they've had months to prepare this case. We have 2 days." My phone rang. Sarah's name appeared on the screen. "Answer it," Frank said. "Put it on speaker." "Dad, I heard you hired a lawyer." Sarah's voice was sugar-sweet, but with an edge underneath. "That's exactly the kind of poor judgment we're talking about. You're being taken advantage of." "I'm protecting myself from you." "Dad, please. We're trying to help you. Sign the papers and we'll make sure you're comfortable. Fight us and you'll end up in a state facility." Frank was recording everything on his phone. "Is that a threat, Sarah?" "It's reality, Dad. Stop making this harder than it needs to be." The line went dead. Frank worked through the night, and by morning he had ammunition. His forensic accountant had found several red flags in my trust documents and bank records. "The trust revision was signed during your post-surgical recovery," Frank explained. "Your medical records show you were on heavy pain medication that affects cognitive function. Any court should see that as coercion. Better yet, they'd found suspicious financial activity. Your daughter created an LLC called Langley Consulting 3 months ago. Since then, $85,000 has been transferred from your accounts to pay this company for family care management services. I never hired any family care management. Exactly. She's been paying herself with your money for services you never requested. We also had Marta's detailed notes and recordings. And Frank had tracked down 2 neighbors who would testify that I was mentally sharp and living independently. But the biggest surprise came when Frank called my estranged younger brother, Danny. We'd had a falling out years ago over something trivial, but Frank thought he might have useful information. "Richard, I'm glad someone finally called," Danny said. "Sarah did the same thing to Linda's grandmother 5 years ago." Linda was my daughter-in-law, Michael's wife. "What do you mean?" "Grandma Rose had a small estate, maybe $200,000. Sarah convinced Linda that the old woman was losing her mind, got herself appointed as caregiver, then slowly moved money around. By the time Rose died, there was almost nothing left. I felt sick. This wasn't my daughter's first time. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Sarah and Michael sat with their lawyer on one side, while Frank and I took the other. Marta sat in the gallery behind us. Judge Williams was a woman in her 50s with kind but sharp eyes. She reviewed the paperwork carefully before speaking. "This is a petition for emergency guardianship based on claims of cognitive decline," she began. "Mr. Langley, you have the right to speak in your own defense." I stood up, my heart pounding but my mind clear. "Your Honor, I am 74 years old, and I have never been more mentally alert. I live independently, manage my own affairs, and make sound decisions. My children are trying to steal my life's work through false claims of dementia." I spoke for 10 minutes, calmly and clearly. I recited facts, dates, financial details. Anyone listening could tell I was completely competent. Then Marta testified. She read from her detailed notes, describing our conversations, my daily routines, my mental sharpness. She played the recording of Sarah trying to bribe her for false testimony. Finally, Frank played Sarah's phone call from the day before. "If you won't hand it over, we'll tell the court you're senile." "That's what they expect," Sarah's voice echoed through the courtroom. The judge's expression hardened. "I'm going to adjourn this hearing pending further investigation. However, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order preventing any further asset transfers until this matter is resolved." I thought the restraining order would protect me, but I was wrong. The next morning, I tried to withdraw cash from my checking account and was told the account was frozen. "Your co-trustee flagged suspicious activity," the bank manager explained. "She said you were making erratic financial decisions and needed protection from yourself." Sarah had used her trustee powers to freeze my own money. I had maybe $200 in cash and couldn't access my own accounts. Marta found me sitting at my kitchen table staring at my empty wallet. "Mr. Richard, let me help," she said, pulling out her own credit card. "Groceries, gas, whatever you need." The fact that my caregiver was offering to support me financially while my own children tried to steal from me was almost too much to bear. Frank was furious when I called him. "That's a violation of the court order. She's not supposed to be making any financial moves. Can you stop it? I'm filing an emergency motion today." "But Richard, this shows how desperate they're getting. People don't usually take these kinds of risks unless they're confident they'll win." That afternoon, I got a call from my insurance company. "Mr. Langley, we need to confirm your address. Your daughter said you've moved to an assisted living facility." They were systematically erasing my independent existence, telling everyone I was already mentally gone. I live in my own home and always have. "Oh, well, we'll need documentation of that for our records." I was being forced to prove I existed in my own life. Frank filed multiple motions, for contempt of court, for immediate asset unfreezing, and for sanctions against Sarah's lawyer. But the legal system moved slowly, and my children were moving fast. That's when Frank revealed his ace in the hole. "Richard, remember when you updated your medical directive 6 months ago? You also signed a durable power of attorney, naming me as your backup agent if you were ever unable to make decisions." I vaguely remembered the paperwork. "What does that mean?" "It means if you're truly incapacitated, I have legal authority to act on your behalf. But more importantly, it proves you were thinking clearly about protection against exactly this situation. You saw this coming." Frank filed the power of attorney with the court as evidence of my foresight and mental competence. But my children weren't giving up. Michael called that evening. Dad, this is getting out of hand. Sarah's upset, the whole family is talking. Can't we work something out? You sat there on Father's Day and let her threaten me, I said. That's all I need to know about your character. I was just going along with her. I didn't think it would go this far. Going along with stealing my life savings? It's not stealing if it's family money. That phrase, family money, told me everything. In their minds, my estate already belonged to them. I was just an inconvenient obstacle to their inheritance. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The stress was destroying me physically. But I had one more card to play, and Frank helped me understand it. Richard, you're still competent, and you still have some legal authority. We can rewrite your will. Change the beneficiaries completely. Create a charitable trust. Leave everything to causes you care about. Make it clear this is your decision, made while you're of sound mind, witnessed and notarized properly. It felt like the ultimate betrayal of my own children, but they'd betrayed me first. I thought about Margaret, about the life we'd built together, about the values we'd tried to teach our kids. They'd forgotten all of it in their greed for money. We drove to Frank's office, where he had a notary waiting. I dictated a simple will, everything to a charitable trust in Margaret's and my name, focused on elder abuse prevention and legal aid for seniors. But I added one clause that Frank suggested. Small trust funds for my grandchildren. College money that their parents couldn't touch. The kids had made their choice, but their children shouldn't suffer for it. This is your nuclear option, Frank warned. Once they find out about this, they'll fight even harder. Let them fight. I'm done being their victim. I signed the papers, and Frank locked them in his safe. My children would inherit nothing but the consequences of their greed. 2 days later, my phone exploded with a voicemail from Sarah that was so unhinged, Frank said it was evidence of her true character. You selfish, ungrateful old man, she screamed. We've done everything for you, and this is how you repay us? You're going to regret this. You'll die alone and forgotten, and will contest whatever garbage will you think you've written. You won't have anyone left. Frank forwarded the recording to Judge Williams immediately. But Sarah wasn't done. She called my doctor's office, my pharmacy, even my neighbors, telling everyone I was having a mental health crisis and making dangerous decisions. Mrs. Chen from next door knocked on my door that afternoon, looking worried. Richard, your daughter called. She said you're not taking your medications and that you're paranoid about your family. Are you okay? The systematic destruction of my reputation was almost impressive in its thoroughness. Sarah was burning down my entire social network. Mrs. Chen, I'm fine. My children are trying to steal my money and I'm fighting back in court. Don't believe anything they tell you. She looked confused but nodded. If you need anything, just ask. At least some people still saw the truth. That evening, Michael showed up at my door, looking desperate. Dad, you need to stop this. Sarah's lawyer says we can still work things out if you're reasonable. Reasonable? Like giving you my life savings was reasonable? It's not about the money. Then walk away. Tell your sister to drop the guardianship petition. He couldn't answer that, because it was absolutely about the money. The civil trial started on a rainy Tuesday morning. Frank had filed claims for elder financial abuse, breach of fiduciary duty, and undue influence. We were asking for damages, attorney's fees, and a permanent ban on Sarah managing anyone else's finances. The courtroom was packed. Word had gotten out about the case, and several elder rights advocates had come to watch. Sarah's lawyer argued that she was a concerned daughter trying to protect her declining father. He painted me as confused, paranoid, and manipulated by my lawyer. But Frank was ready. He presented the bank records showing the suspicious transfers, the medical records proving I was on heavy medication when I signed the trust changes, and Marta's detailed documentation of my mental competence. The most damaging evidence was the recording of Sarah trying to bribe Marta for false testimony. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Frank said in his closing argument, this isn't about family disagreements. This is about predators who saw an opportunity to steal from a vulnerable senior citizen and almost got away with it. When the jury foreman read the verdict, guilty on all counts, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I'd been carrying for months. Sarah was ordered to repay $280,000 in stolen funds, plus attorney's fees and punitive damages. More importantly, she was permanently barred from serving as anyone's financial guardian or trustee. Her nursing license would be reviewed by the state board. The legal victory felt hollow at first. I'd won, but I'd lost my children in the process. The money didn't matter as much as the family relationships that could never be repaired. Frank helped me regain control of all my accounts and properties. The Oregon cabin sale was voided, and I got my investment accounts back. But the real victory was simpler. I could live in my own home, make my own decisions, and die with dignity on my own terms. Marta became more than a caregiver. She became the daughter I'd lost, the family member who actually cared about my well-being instead of my bank account. I updated my medical directives, naming Marta as my healthcare proxy and Frank as my legal executor. If I ever did become mentally incapacitated, I'd be protected by people who actually loved me. The foundation in Margaret's name launched with $500,000 in seed money. We focused on providing legal aid to seniors facing elder abuse and education about protecting against financial exploitation. Marta became our first employee and our most passionate advocate. She'd seen firsthand how quickly families could turn predatory, and she was determined to help other seniors avoid my experience. Michael tried calling a few times, but I wasn't ready. Maybe someday we could rebuild something, but it would have to be on my terms. For now, I was content with my chosen family, Marta, Frank, and the community of people who'd supported me through the darkest period of my life. A journalist from the local paper wanted to write about my case, and Frank thought it might help other seniors recognize the warning signs of elder abuse. The article ran with the headline, "They called him senile, then tried to steal his home." It didn't use my real name, but it told the whole story. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of seniors called Frank's office, describing similar experiences with their own families. Adult children pressuring them to sign documents, taking control of finances, threatening nursing home placement. Elder abuse, we learned, was an epidemic hiding in plain sight. The foundation started getting donations from strangers who'd read the article. Small amounts mostly, $50, $100, but the letters that came with them broke my heart. "Thank you for fighting back," one woman wrote. "My son did the same thing to me, but I didn't know I could fight it." Another, "I'm 82 and terrified my daughter will put me in a home if I don't sign over my house. Your story gives me hope." Margaret would have been proud. Her money was helping people she'd never met, protecting seniors from the very abuse she'd warned me about. I kept her picture on my desk and talked to her every morning. "We did it, honey. We protected what we built together." Some days I swear I could hear her laughing, that wonderful sound that had filled our house for 47 years. 6 months after the trial, I was pruning roses in my garden when a car pulled into my driveway. Michael got out, looking older and tired. We stood there for a moment, just looking at each other. "Dad, can we talk?" I nodded toward the porch chairs. Marta was inside making lunch, but she stayed away, giving us privacy. "I owe you an apology," he said finally. "A real one. Not the kind where I make excuses or try to justify what we did." I waited. "Sarah convinced me you were losing your mind. She had recordings of you forgetting things, bank statements that looked concerning. I believed her because I wanted to believe her." "Why?" "Because it was easier than admitting my business was failing, and I needed money. Sarah said if we managed your assets properly, everyone would be better off. You'd be safe, we'd be secure." He was crying now. "I never thought about what it would do to you. I never imagined how it would feel to have your own children try to take away your independence." I felt some of my anger soften, but not all of it. "Michael, I appreciate the apology. I really do. But you sat in my dining room on Father's Day and watched your sister threaten me. You didn't speak up, you didn't defend me, you didn't walk away." "I know. Forgiveness isn't something you get just by asking for it. It's something you earn over time." He nodded. "What would that look like?" I thought about it. "Time will tell." Michael started coming by every few weeks, not asking for anything, just talking about his work, his kids, memories of their mother. I could see he was genuinely trying to rebuild something. Sarah, on the other hand, had disappeared from my life completely. Mutual friends said she was angry and bitter, telling people I'd been manipulated by my lawyer and that she was the real victim. Some people believed her. Others saw through it. I'd learned not to care what people thought as long as I knew the truth. The foundation was thriving. We'd helped 12 seniors fight back against financial abuse and educated hundreds more about protecting themselves. Marta had become a passionate advocate, speaking at senior centers and community groups. One afternoon, she brought me a letter from a woman in Arizona. "Mr. Langley, I saw your story online and wanted to thank you. My daughter was pressuring me to move in with her and simplify my finances. After reading about your experience, I hired my own lawyer and discovered she'd already taken $30,000 from my accounts. Because of your courage to speak out, I was able to stop her before she took everything." That letter meant more to me than all the money I'd recovered. Margaret's dream of helping people was alive and growing. I kept the letter in my desk drawer, next to her picture. Some days when I missed her most, I'd read it again and remember that our love was still making a difference in the world.